So you might remember J.D. Vance gave a rousing speech at the EU. So many people were so excited at this new sweet air of freedom being ushered in by this administration. A lot of people chose to ignore what he didn't mention, his glaring omission of all the pro-Palestine protesters and journalists that had been harassed, arrested, held on specious terrorism charges. Julian Assange, none of that was mentioned in his speech. All he wanted to talk about were Christian conservatives praying outside abortion clinics, which, to be clear, people should be free to express themselves. But he said more by what he didn't say, but a lot of people ignored that. A lot of the same people that are now starting to criticize what the Trump administration's real agenda was, which I would argue was evident in what they didn't say in that speech.
Government encouraged private companies to silence people who dared to utter what turned out to be an obvious truth. So I come here today not just with an observation, but with an offer. And just as the Biden administration seemed desperate to silence people for speaking their minds, so the Trump administration will do precisely the opposite, and I hope that we can work together on that. In Washington, there is a new sheriff in town, and under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Oh, is that right?
Wow. That sounds good. That sounds really good. Yeah, we were kind of a lonely voice there pointing out the elephant in the room that these people are clearly full of shit given their posture towards college campuses and so on. And very quickly, it escalated beyond college campuses. Jimmy Kimmel Live replaced with Charlie Kirk tribute on Sinclair's ABC stations. Company demands Kimmel apologize and donate to Kirk's family and Turning Point USA. Now, this is for a monologue. These are the comments from Monday night that led ABC to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live this afternoon. So he is no longer on the air. They're floating as a condition of getting his job back, donating this money, but it's still not clear that he would get back on the air. So we have to go audio only because of copyright. It's about a minute of footage.
New lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Okay. We're not fans of Jimmy Kimmel around here. But that was certainly, and hey, we're free speech advocates. It wouldn't really matter what he said if it was within the bounds of the First Amendment. Pushing him off the air over it would not be acceptable. Using the weight of the government to do that would not be acceptable. Part of what's so shocking about this is what he said was so innocuous. When I heard about this, I assumed he did a milder version of Destiny's Scorched Earth ranting directed at Charlie Kirk and his family. It's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. He calls it a murder. He doesn't seem unsympathetic. This is really a monologue about Trump. Now, they're ignoring that part of it. They're claiming because he claimed that he was MAGA, that's misinformation. That would be a specious basis to go after a news anchor. He's a comedian. He has no obligation to fact check his jokes. And is that really the world that we want to live in. And frankly, he went kind of easy on it, because if I had been doing that monologue, I certainly would have included this. Hours after watching Charlie Kirk die, Trump was dancing at a baseball game. This is from a conservative account. I am still emotionally a mess. This guy, his friend, in quotes, is dancing at a game. We actually have some video about that, of Trump doing his famous traditional wealth two cocks dance that he's famous for, where he jerks the two cocks. His very famous dance step there. Let's see him do it. Yeah, there he is. There he is, milking those two pigs' cuds. All right, we'll pull that down in case they flag it for copyright.
Don't want to get fucked by the village people.
But apparently our illustrious leader does.
Well, the other thing, if I could just make one point too, he didn't really say that the shooter, like when I heard that he said the shooter was MAGA, I assumed he actually came out and said that, which would have been a falsehood. He didn't exactly say that. What he said was they're trying
doesn't really
to
matter, but yeah.
Well, you could say that that's a
but
pretty
it's
egregious
still, but it's
lie.
still, we're not going to concede that he wouldn't have the right to be wrong.
Of course,
he has
I'm
that
not
right.
saying that, but what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, it wasn't even that. It was, he said that they're trying to make it sound like this is anything but one of theirs, alluding to the fact that he had Christian conservative parents. Like, it was spin, like it was liberal spin by a liberal comic, which is par for the course on these late night shows. It was nothing. It wasn't even really out of the ordinary for what he does. The only thing you might claim is a little distasteful is making a joke, making jokes at all about the Charlie Kirk affair. But the thing is, I mean, Donald Trump reacted in a way that just was ridiculous with the whole, we're getting along very well and the ballroom's going great. Like, that's a ridiculous reaction. So what do you want?
Yes, right. Exactly. Well, that is what I think is part of what's so shocking to people, because what he did, making fun of the president, whose reaction was indeed bizarre and insensitive, because guess what? He's a fucking psychopath. He's a psychopath. He doesn't care that Charlie Kirk was murdered. He doesn't care about that. So he doesn't think anything of dancing at a baseball game. He's going to act like he cares when the cameras are on him, specifically dealing with that subject. If he's at a memorial, he's going to pretend he cares. If your friend died, would you have it in your heart to be at a baseball game jerking off two dicks, giving air hand jobs at a baseball game? Would you do that? No, that's a psychopath. He doesn't care what happened to Charlie Kirk. Clearly, they ask him about it, and his psychopath's instinct took over there. He didn't do the thing. Oh yeah, I feel really bad. You see the ballroom? That's who he is. He is a psychopath. He is a psychopath. He will tell people what they want to hear, but he's not actually emotionally connected. He doesn't have actual empathy. So he forgot. He forgot to pretend in those moments that he actually cared about this. He knows politically he should act like he cares, but it's very hard to pretend to care when you don't care 24 hours a day, to pretend to care about things that you don't actually care about. So the mask slipped. That's my reading of his behavior. So what Kimmel said, that's actually some of the better work I've seen from Kimmel, because he's actually addressing a real thing that's really worthy of a comedian's attention and mockery. That's really not liberal spin. That is as plain as the nose on your face, that his behavior was very strange there for someone claiming to care. Kimmel's cancellation confirms what many suspected after Colbert's. Media companies must punish Trump critics if they want their mega mergers approved. We'll get back to that. Let's rewind a little bit. This was after Colbert got fired. I absolutely love that Colbert got fired. His talent was even less than his ratings. I hear Jimmy Kimmel is next. Wow. He's like Nostradamus. It's incredible how he predicted that way. Has even less talent than Colbert. Greg Gutfeld is better than all of them combined, including the moron on NBC who ruined the once great Tonight Show. Well, you hear that? He's coming for you, man. He's coming for you. Jimmy Fallon's next. So right after that, it was maybe a week, 10 days. Trump administration green lights Paramount's $8 billion merger with entertainment group Skydance. Now, that merger was pending at the time that they fired Colbert, and a lot of people believe, and it seems certainly to be the case, that among other concessions they made, that was a deal sweetener, firing Colbert. This is just this week. You want to see how, some people might say, well, but there really is liberal bias at these networks. Yeah, I mean, and there's a conservative bias at Fox. It's not like there's no balancing contrary media ecosystem, even if you want to make that argument. Like if you're going to start arguing all the public airwaves have to lack bias, well, you have to go after Fox as well, right? They have an FCC license.
Right.
CBS News hired a Trump loyalist to monitor political bias and is bringing in another to guide their editorial direction. This is after Trump extorted Paramount for $16 million to approve their $8 billion merger with Skydance, the freedom of speech president. So this is just this week. So this is their idea of bringing balance back to the news. CBS News has hired Kenneth Weinstein as its new ombudsman, charged with receiving and evaluating any complaints of bias or other concerns involving CBS. He will report directly to Jeff Shell, the president of Paramount, the parent company of CBS News. Paramount pledged to create the position at CBS News when the Trump administration approved its merger with Skydance, a movie studio and entertainment company. Weinstein, the former president of the Hudson Institute, a right-wing think tank, has no experience producing or overseeing news coverage. Okay, so this is not, you can't even make the argument, yeah, but there really is bias. Well, they don't care about that. They just want their bias. They're not trying to restore objective, balanced news coverage, obviously. So a little more about the merger from the Washington Post article. In the least surprising news in the world, this is this merger that ABC has pending. Nexstar is seeking approval from President Donald Trump's FCC to acquire Tegna, another media company. The $6.2 billion deal would transform Nexstar Tegna into an unprecedented mega company whose reach would grow to 80% of U.S. households. There's a hitch. A long-standing broadcasting rule prevents any one company from reaching more than 39% of U.S. households. So Nexstar doesn't just need the FCC's approval, it also needs the FCC to change that rule or the deal can't go through. Luckily for Nexstar, FCC Chairman Brandon Carr has signaled he's open to ending, quote, arcane artificial limits, unquote, on station ownership. But just a few hours before Nexstar announced it was pulling Kimmel, guess who went on conservative commentator Benny Johnson's podcast to blast Kimmel and threaten that there were avenues here for the FCC if companies didn't take action? Carr. All right, so Benny in the closet is very, very proud of his role in this. This is what got Kimmel fired. Right here, watch. It's called soft power. The left uses it all the time. Thanks to President Trump, the right has learned how to wield power as well. Brendan Carr is the most consequential FCC chairman in American history.
Look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel. It appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he had a tweet out last week where he was saying that, emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC. I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Okay. He did an interview with Glenn under the Biden administration, which Glenn pulled up today. Brendan Carr, as FCC commissioner, vocally condemned Biden administration's pressure threats toward big tech and cable outlets to censor. Now, as FCC chair, he threatened outlets to remove Kimmel now praises Nexstar with a $6 billion merger pending for compliance. He told me this last year. Let's take a look.
Could be some minimal role there as you articulate it, but I think what we've seen over the last couple of years, in particular with the Biden-Harris administration, is they just blew past any possible line in the sand that could be legitimately drawn. The evidence that's been brought to bear shows that not only were they flagging just pure political speech, satire, memes, but they did so with a clenched fist, meaning they made very clear that the Biden administration's continued defense of 230 protections, which are protections, whether you like them or not, that big tech has benefited from, that those were at risk. They made clear that they were looking at anti-competitive, antitrust action. So at the same time that they were sort of going beyond merely flagging certain types of posts, they were going right to political speech, and they were doing so with a carrot and a stick right there. There's an entire line of Supreme Court cases called actually the jawboning line of cases, where if you're a federal official and you are pressuring a private entity to censor another private entity, well, then effectively the First Amendment is in fact invoked. And I think that this is one where Justice Alito on our Supreme Court in dissent was right in one of these recent cases where the majority said, we don't think there's enough there to really demonstrate that there was official government pressure that crossed the line.
Yeah, we've covered.
Okay. So this is kind of a microcosm of the whole grift that Trump and the MAGA administration, the MAGA people, the core of them, the people who are actually in power, not the rank and file voters, they ran a scam on people. They pretended that they had some kind of strict constitutional adherence to freedom of speech, in contrast to these cancel culture woke Democrats. And as you saw in the Vance speech in the EU, new sheriffs in town. Now, again, it was very obvious what the grift was from that speech, rather than I don't understand. A lot of people who should have known better focused on what he said instead of what he didn't say. And what he didn't say actually said a lot more, as we can see playing out in real time right now. But you can see, look at what Carr's saying there. He sounds like, okay, well, he's a conservative. I don't agree with him on a lot of things, but he believes in the Constitution, not like these woke Democrats. Yeah, they bullshitted you. They completely bullshitted you. He said something completely different when they were out of power to Glenn and trying to peel away some voters. This is something where you have to say they're politically far more astute than Democrats are. You have the Democrats running around talking about how should we try to win over Trump voters. Thomas Frank has talked a lot about how crazy that is, like they're tainted goods. The MAGA people understood, there are a lot of disaffected leftists who, if you talk this kind of freedom of speech shit, they hate the Democrats so much. A lot of these ex-Bernie people who will come over and vote for Trump. That's what that's about. They bullshitted you. They lied to you.
Yep.
Do you want to say anything before I go on?
No, I'll wait till the end if you got more.
Okay, so leading into this decision, this was not the only overt, tacit, implicit, and explicit threats that were made to these networks. Trump tweeted this out August 25th. Truthed it out. Despite a very high popularity, and according to many, among the greatest 8 months in presidential history, ABC and NBC fake news, two of the worst and most biased networks in history, give me 97% bad stories. If that is the case, they are simply an arm of the Democratic Party and should, according to many, have their licenses revoked by the FCC. I would be totally in favor of that because they are so biased and untruthful, an actual threat to our democracy. MAGA! Okay. All right. So for an example of what Donald Trump's idea of objective news would be, very high popularity. This just dropped, actually. 39% of Americans strongly or somewhat approve of Donald Trump's job performance as president, while 57% disapprove. The 39% of Americans who approve of Trump is the lowest share to do so in any Economist YouGov poll in Trump's second term. This week. This is, I think, the 12th to the 15th. The 57% who disapprove is the most to do so in Trump's second term. Trump's net approval rating, the share who approve minus the share who disapprove, is negative 18, the lowest of his second term. Trump's negative 18 net approval is also the second lowest net approval Trump has received in any Economist YouGov poll in either of his 2 terms today. He's very popular. So what do networks like CBS is shaping up to be, run by Trump loyalists, and with Trump loyalists basically installed as political commissars, controlling editorial decisions at the network? What do you think it looks like? You're just not going to hear about this, or they'll lie about it. They'll cherry pick some numbers to claim he's popular. And if you want to say, well, he truthed that out 3 weeks ago, you could see his approval on every issue has been plunging in a straight line since he took office. He was not much better off in his approval rating in August when he truthed that out than he is now. And here he is. This got a little bit of attention. This seems particularly significant now. This was just a few days ago. He seemed to tacitly threaten ABC specifically in a question answering a question from a reporter.
Pam Bondi's saying she's going to go after hate speech. Is that, a lot of your allies say hate speech is free speech.
She'll probably go after people like you because you treat me so unfairly. It's hate. You have a lot of hate in your heart.
It's hate.
Maybe they'll come after ABC. Well, ABC paid me $16 million recently for a form of hate speech, right? Your company paid me $16 million for a form of hate speech. So maybe they'll have to go after you.
So all of that was going on in the lead up to them taking Kimmel off the air with a merger pending. So Benny in the closet here, very excited. Soon as the news broke, quote tweets Nexstar's press release. Official ABC broadcast affiliate Nexstar is removing Jimmy Kimmel from all 32 of their ABC stations until Disney answers for Kimmel's despicable attack on Charlie Kirk. A piece of garbage like Benny in the closet, who will do whatever his paymasters tell him to do. And believe me, that cat is getting paid, not just from his subscribers or his patrons. There is definitely money behind Benny in the closet, and whatever narrative they have, he will spat. He doesn't care if he destroys your free speech rights. He doesn't care what he does to exacerbate tensions that are verging on low-grade civil war at this point. He doesn't care as long as he's getting paid. You heard what Kimmel said. Was there a despicable attack on Charlie Kirk in there? Not at all. Not at all. There was an attack on Donald Trump, which even they have to concede is in bounds. So they have to lie and make it as if he attacked Charlie Kirk, which he obviously did not. So this is what Nexstar sent out in their press release. This was their statement. Mr. Kimmel's comments about the death of Mr. Kirk are offensive and insensitive. He didn't talk about his death. He didn't talk about it. At a critical time in our national political discourse, and we do not believe they reflect the spectrum of opinions, views, or values of the local communities in which we are located, said Andrew Alford, president of Nexstar's broadcasting division. Continuing to give Mr. Kimmel a broadcast platform in the communities we serve is simply not in the public interest at the current time, and we have made the difficult decision to preempt his show in an effort to let cooler heads prevail as we move toward the resumption of respectful, constructive dialogue. Brendan Carr tweeted out, I want to thank Nexstar for doing the right thing. This is like the Nazi commandant when the town surrenders. Local broadcasters have an obligation to serve the public interest. While this may be an unprecedented decision, it is important for broadcasters to push back on Disney programming that they determine falls short of community values. I hope that other broadcasters follow Nexstar's lead. You say you've got a bunch of broken middle-aged white men who are going to lead us into fascism because they put lesbians in Star Wars.
Yes, that's about right.
Donald Trump, great news for America. The ratings challenge Jimmy Kimmel show is canceled. Congratulations to ABC for finally having the courage to do what had to be done. Kimmel has zero talent and worse ratings than even Colbert, if that's possible. That leaves Jimmy and Seth, two total losers on fake news NBC. Their ratings are also horrible. Do it, NBC. President Donald J. Trump. Do they have I don't think they have any mergers pending. So we'll see how that goes. Wu-Tang is for the children. Trump wanted Kimmel gone because he didn't like getting made fun of. The ABC affiliate saw an opening with Kimmel's Charlie Kirk statement and pulled the show because they need Trump's okay for a merger. It was just billionaires doing favors for each other. Big club and you ain't in it, baby. Impure Hunter. I'm perfectly okay with Kimmel being taken off the air for being profoundly unfunny. Let the market do its thing. I'm not a fan of the state getting involved at all. That is our position. I think I can speak for my partner there. And Glenn quote tweeted that. This shouldn't be a complicated or difficult dichotomy to understand. Jimmy Kimmel is repulsive, but the state has no role in threatening companies to fire on-air voices it dislikes or who the state believes is spreading disinformation, which is exactly what happened here. Yes. And it's funny when you look at this mass media consolidation, it already drastically consolidated because of the Clinton administration's repealing of, I can't remember the name of the act, but he repealed
The telecommunications, or no, that was the name. Yeah.
That was the name of the act. He repealed the laws that did not allow networks to own newspapers, which really helped the media to consolidate into, used to be over 100 companies own the media. Now it's 6 major companies. And now it looks like you're going to get down to 2 or 3. It is funny how much the society is shaping up to look like what we were told totalitarian communism looks like. You're going to have this mass consolidation of state-run media where everything is run by the central planning committee, by the dear leader, by the premier before it goes on the air. I mean, this is exactly what they said communism would lead to. And that's very much what this is starting to look like. Hey, right, left, all that shit, that goes out the window, man. This is an all hands on deck moment. And to give credit where it's due, we covered the Pam Bondi story. A lot of conservatives spoke out against that. And it's not that I would trust these conservatives on a lot of other freedom issues. Some of them are speaking out. There's a moment where we need all hands on deck. Everyone has to be speaking out on this. Do I really think that's going to happen? Frankly, no. I think we're moving into a very dark time where America is gonna be a fascist country. They are building step by step, brick by brick. They're building all of the elements that make up a fascist society.
Right. So if you look at the poll there that came out, Trump's favorability rating at the lowest point of the second term, yeah, that was taken entirely post
Charlie Kirk.
Charlie Kirk, because it is evident to most people that Donald Trump is neither interested in nor capable of turning the temperature down, getting people to chill out, and pulling back from the brink of plunging into what could be some very dark and dangerous times. And most people don't like that. Yeah. And the way you're going to pull back from that is by convincing even more and more and more people that this is just not an acceptable way to go. And, I think that a large part of how we got here, and I've been talking about this all week, is that the left has presented itself in ways that are very alienating to ordinary people, and they have drained a lot of goodwill out of their faction of the society.
Right. That's why Carr, just to interject, that's why Carr and other people like him were able to plausibly present the right wing as speech warriors.
Well, yes, of course. I mean, who got canceled this week? You have Destiny, which I wouldn't compare anyone else to him. I mean, he's just shockingly vile, suggesting that the widow's tears were fake while she was speaking about her husband the day after he got killed, right? So that's just like otherworldly insanity. Kimmel, you got a guy like Kimmel who 4 years ago got up on the stage and joked very gleefully about how, in fact, I don't even think this was a joke. I think he actually meant this. He presented this in a humorous way, that, people who didn't want to take the vaccine should be denied treatment at a hospital and that they should die. What did he say? Good luck, Wheezy.
Good luck, Wheezy,
Yeah, exactly. So when you present yourself in that way, you alienate people to the point where they become sort of incapable of putting principle ahead of their emotional reactions to things. This is how a guy like Trump gets in power in the first place. You have Democrats fretting about norms and guardrails and precedents, and you have large swaths of the country saying, well, what have these norms and guardrails and precedents done for me? Nothing. Right. So what do I care about them? Nothing. Right. So we'll roll the dice with this guy. Yeah, in principle, he says a lot of things I don't like, but fuck it, what the hell? What we're doing is not working. And I think that, you give the authoritarians a lot of room to operate when you present yourself in a way that is so alienating to the average person, which is why I believe when you look at numbers like that and you look at the fact that most people understand that this administration has no interest in pulling us back from the brink, the way to pull back from the brink is to appeal to them. Appeal to them. Don't make it a difficult choice. Don't give them the opportunity to say, well, yeah, I'm not for this kind of censorship and deplatforming, but could you believe what that fucking scumbag said about Charlie Kirk's widow? Now you're making it a calculation, right? If you just reject the people like Destiny, and to a lesser extent Kimmel, he's not as bad as Destiny. I'm not putting him there. Although the stuff about the unvaccinated was pretty fucking awful, right? It's not quite as off the fuck. I mean, that's just whatever. Don't want to repeat myself. But don't make it a tough call. Don't make it a tough call. Most people do not want to live in a society where their late night TV hosts are getting canceled for making jokes. So, I would say this is an opportune time for us to think about how we actually get out of this. Because, yeah, we can speak up and say, this is wrong, this is terrible. A lot of us have. We're doing it right now. You know what? Doesn't matter. They did it. They did it because they have power in this moment. There is no escaping that.
Yep.
The only way to change this is to change the power dynamic. The only way to change the power dynamic is to own the center and appeal to most people and create a wave of opposition to this that seems reasonable to most people. And don't tell me it can't work. It has worked. The boycott bills have tanked because public opposition to them was very pronounced and one-sided. The people who they sent to CCOT, they had to let out of CCOT because 80% of the country was against that. So, on the one hand, yeah, you could say I'm being doom and gloom because I am articulating accurately, in my opinion, the cataclysmic and dire nature of this moment. But I also think that succumbing to raw emotional reactions and hot takes is a form of surrender. You may think of that as a form of resistance, but it's not, because what you're doing is you're giving these people the opportunity to say, yeah, you might not love what we're doing, but look at these fucking freaks. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. It's just not a good thing to do.
That's how they got in office. That's how
exactly. That's how they got in office. Right.
I mean, if you watched that Madison Square Garden rally and did not think of idiocracy, it's only because the libs made it easy to see them as worse.
Right. Exactly. 100%.
Please clap.